Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unity of New Westminster's celebration service. Please join in the singing of our opening song today.
Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Here we go now.
Welcome back. I am Reverend Rhona Segarra, and it is my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the community at Unity of New Westminster in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. We would love to stay connected with you. So please subscribe to our newsletter or like us on Facebook or subscribe to our YouTube channel. And that way you can always know what's going on in our community. The Unity movement offers ideas for full and abundant living. We draw on the teachings of Jesus, who we consider our primary way shower and example. And we honor that there is universal wisdom to be found in faith traditions, in song, in story, in poetry, all over the planet. We respect and honor every person's right to choose their own life path. All are welcome here. All are worthy here. All are celebrated here.
We open our service today in prayer. I gratefully acknowledge that I speak to you on the traditional and unceded territory of the Semiahmoo First Nation. And we give thanks to First Nation peoples everywhere for their custody of this beautiful land. We give thanks for our connection one with each other. That connection that happens whether we are in each other's physical presence or not. The connection that binds us all together. We acknowledge that there is only one presence, that there is only one power, that power that is understood by many names, many faces, and many paths. And we affirm that regardless of the name, the face, or the path of our understanding, that we are one human family. And it is in that knowledge of our oneness that we send a blessing for love, for peace, for contentment to every being on this planet, to every being, regardless of all the labels that threaten to divide us. We are one. And for this knowledge, for this intention, and for the power that we have to bless, we give thanks. Amen. I am so excited that we are now meeting in person and online at Unity of New Westminster. We are asking anyone who attends in-person services to be prepared to show proof of vaccination, to wear a mask, and to be symptom-free. And for now, at least, we are not having hospitality or refreshments after the service like we normally do. But hopefully that will happen soon. And then for those who are unable to join us live and in person, just remember that our online services will continue at the same time. Same YouTube channel, same Facebook channel. So whether we see you in person or whether you view our celebration services online, we are so glad that you are joining us.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. I'm a blessing to the world. I'm a blessing to the world.
Told some friends that I was preparing a talk about self-control, and each one of them had exactly the same reaction. They chuckled. They started to laugh. Today, I'm going to share some thoughts with you about self-control. It is the 9th of the 9 fruits of the Spirit, as described by Paul in his letter to the Galatians. According to Paul, these are attributes that we would have naturally in our lives if we lived a spirit-filled life, a life where we are each aware of our interconnectedness with each other and with the creative power which we call God. These attributes are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And have you ever noticed that the most overlooked part of a list is the end? Well, it seems that it's as true for grocery lists as it is for the fruits of the Spirit, because we often speak about love, joy, and peace and gentleness, but we seldom get around to talking about self-control. It is an important part of our lives, though. Self-control can impact whether our lives will be filled with love and joy and peace and patience and gentleness, or whether it won't. And judging from the reactions of my friends, I am not alone. I think we have all experienced the impact of overdeveloped or underdeveloped self-control in our lives. So let's look today at self-control. The dictionary definition, Merriam-Webster dictionary definition reads, quote, restraint exercised over one's own impulses, emotions, or desires, end quote. In other words, self-control is the ability to be in charge of and change our go-to habits, our own impulses, emotions, and desires. And rather than those being in charge of us, self-control is an indicator that we are in charge of impulses, emotions, or desires. Rather than them being in charge of us, we are in charge of them. According to the website, becauseIsaidIwould.com, we see self-control in 4 main areas of our lives. In our physical lives, think of the self-control that we need to do something physical, such as get off the couch, or empty the dishwasher, or get the oil changed on the car. We exercise self-control in our emotions, such as how we channel our tendency to criticize, or what we do when we're feeling angry, how we respond when we're feeling nervous or fearful. Then concentration. We can use self-control to help our ability to focus our attention and effort without becoming distracted by something less important. And finally, our impulses, our reaction to something that is hard to resist. This is the area of addiction and overindulgence. Think chocolate, alcohol, gambling, and so on. Now, feeling and displaying emotions does not mean that you do not have self-control. Jesus, on the day that we think of as Palm Sunday, was very angry when he overturned the tables at the temple. So you can be really angry and still have self-control. You can feel grief to the point of lamenting out loud and still have self-control. We often mistake this. We think that if we feel those uncomfortable feelings, then it means that we lack self-control. But what's true is it's what we do with those emotions that matters. Whether we use them for something that is healing or something that is destructive. And while we most often think of self-control as underdeveloped, that is, that we don't have enough self-control, it is also true that sometimes self-control can be overdeveloped, where self-control is rigid, where we have too much control. Let's look for a moment, though, at why self-control is important. Let's look at the consequences of underdeveloped self-control. Well, when we lack self-control, for example, over our physical environment, when we lack self-control over our emotions, our ability to concentrate, or our ability to manage our impulses, then we certainly don't achieve our dreams. When we lack in our physical goals, our to-do list never gets done. It never seems to end. And while it's true that there is always new adventures to be had when it comes to things to do, without self-control, it seems as if we are out of control when it comes to what those things that we want to do in our physical world might be. When we lack self-control in our emotions, we can harm the relationships that matter to us. And when we lack self-control in our concentration, in our ability to be focused, we find ways to distract ourselves rather than focusing on what is important, rather than knuckle down and do the studying or the writing. And then, of course, we feel anxious or disappointed when we didn't study hard enough and didn't achieve our potential in some other way. And when we lack self-control over our impulses, we choose things that we know aren't good for us in the long term. Wherever we lack self-control, at best, we will feel disappointed. At worst, and perhaps more often, we will feel a sense of shame or regret, maybe even a sense of helplessness, a tendency to just throw in the towel because it's too hard to change my habits, so I'm just going to give up and let her rip. Lack of self-control can lead us to saying or doing things that we can regret later, things that can harm our relationships, our finances, our sense of security. With too little self-control, we don't achieve our dreams. What about overdeveloped self-control? Well, with overdeveloped self-control, we have a tendency to be rigid, inflexible, less willing to change plans and take advantage of what could be a new opportunity. With overdeveloped self-control, we are easily thrown off course when things don't go according to plan. And we can often respond in a way that is emotional and less than graceful. With too much self-control, we can become quite anxious if things aren't going as we expected them to. So what we're really looking for with self-control is that Goldilocks zone. Not too much, not too little. Just the right amount of self-control. Well, what's in it for you? What's in it for me? What are the benefits of self-control? Well, you may have heard of this really neat study. It was done in the 1960s at Stanford University, and it later became known as the marshmallow experiment. And in this experiment, children who were 4 and 5 years old were each brought into a room, one at a time. They were seated at a chair with a table, and a marshmallow was placed in front of them. The researcher, the adult, explained that he was going to leave the room, and if the child would wait to eat the marshmallow until the researcher came back, then the researcher would reward the child with another marshmallow. So the idea was double the pleasure if you can wait. This test was done on hundreds of children. And not surprisingly, some of those children ate the marshmallows right away. Others waited and sat and fidgeted for a while until they couldn't handle it anymore, and they, too, ate the marshmallow. And a few managed to resist and wait until the researcher arrived with that promised second marshmallow. Isn't that interesting? We see that struggle between instant gratification and longer term benefit play out in our entire life. It happens over and over again, this struggle between what I want now and what is better for me but takes longer to achieve. So that in itself was interesting, that what we saw play out with children is exactly what happens to us throughout our entire lives. But what is perhaps even more interesting is that the researchers then followed these children for over 40 years to see how they fared in life, how they did. And what the researchers discovered was that consistently, the children who were able to delay their gratification performed much better than most people in many areas, which we would consider as markers for success in life. For example, they had lower levels of substance abuse. These children had better social skills. They achieved higher marks at school. They were more likely to be healthy, with fewer examples of things such as diabetes, for example. In many markers that we would consider as successful indicators of life, these children who were 4 and 5 and who were able to delay short-term pleasure ended up being more successful. But self-control is hard at times, wouldn't you say? It takes effort. It takes control. It takes strength. It takes willpower. It takes stamina. It takes intention. It takes attention. In the story of Jesus being tempted, which is found in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Jesus resists 3 temptations. Then after he resists these temptations, the angels come and tend to him. Now, granted, Jesus is already tired and hungry because he's been in the wilderness for 40 days. But nonetheless, I like to think that part of the comfort of the angels represents an acknowledgement of the effort that it takes to say no to the easy way. Sure, it is also a reward for the effort, that the payoff of that long-term holding off. But I also think it's a reward for the effort itself, which can be so, so tiring. Why is self-control so hard? Well, because our brains are programmed to focus on only a few things at once. We can't possibly process every stimulus that is going on around us. So over time, the things that we've already learned and mastered become programmed into our brain. This allows us to focus on other things. And some of those pre-programmed responses become habits. We know how hard it is to change a habit. So what we do is allow our brain to be free to be exposed to new ideas by having these automatic responses, which are called habits. And so to change a habit takes work, because now we have to engage our brain again to do something that it had already been trained to do differently. So it can be draining. But like the children in the marshmallow story discovered, the long-term reward is great. And the feeling of accomplishment is empowering. Whether we want to loosen some of our overdeveloped, tightly held self-control, or whether we want to improve our less developed attempts at self-control, the efforts are worth it. Can we learn self-control then? Well, I found some of this information on the website that is James Clear's website, and he is the author of the best-selling book, Atomic Habits. We learn on his website about another study, a study which is a follow-up from that original marshmallow study. This one is from the University of Rochester. And in this study, researchers repeated some of the marshmallow study, but this time they separated the children into two groups. And in the first group, children were exposed to unreliable experiences before they were offered the marshmallow. The children in that group were given small boxes of crayons, and then they were told that the researcher would bring bigger boxes of crayons with more selection. And then the researcher never showed up with more. They were given small stickers and were promised that bigger stickers would be given later. Better stickers would be given later. And these never materialized either. The other group of children were given the same small boxes of crayons and were promised, and they received, the bigger boxes. They were then given small stickers and were promised the better stickers, which they also received. So what do you think happened when the marshmallows were placed on the table in front of the group of children who had been promised things and had never seen them? Of course, the children who were promised marshmallows, or who were promised rewards that were never delivered, ate their marshmallows. They were smart. They learned. The children who had been promised rewards that were delivered, waited an average of 4 times longer than the first group. And in general, waited until they received their second marshmallow. They learned that if they delayed their pleasure, they would eventually enjoy a bigger payoff. They were smart too. Whether they were in the disappointed group or in the fulfilled group, each child learned, based on their environment, whether their self-control would be rewarded or not. James Clear writes, and I quote, "The children in the second group were training their brains to see delayed gratification as a positive. Each time the researchers made a promise and then delivered on it, the child's brain registered 2 things. 1, waiting for gratification is worth it. And 2, I have the capability to wait." End quote. We can take 2 lessons from this. First, yes, self-control can be learned. And second, to develop self-control, we want to set up an environment which supports our goals of self-control and our rewards as a result of delayed gratification. When self-control feels positive and empowering, it becomes a habit. And once it is a habit, it requires less of our attention and intention. Let's look for a moment at this idea of the environment and the energy that it takes to have self-control. I share these words by the author Peter Sage. Environment trumps will. What Peter Sage means is It takes energy to be the lone holdout in a situation that requires self-control. Sooner or later, your energy will run out. As he puts in his TED Talk, How to Eliminate Self-Doubt Forever and the Power of Your Unconscious Mind, Peter Sage is basically saying, if you hang out around 9 people who are enjoying recreational drugs, there's a pretty good chance that you will be the 10th person. Over time, you will be influenced by the people or the things in your environment. And so whether it's people, grumpy and miserable, or optimistic and happy, or whether it's things, the food in the pantry, the accessibility of the remote control, any one of a number of things, we want our environment to support who we want to be. If you want to be uplifting, be with uplifting people. If you want to eat more healthily, have healthy food in the house. Make it easy on yourself. Set yourself up for success. It will drain your energy less. If your environment isn't supportive, your ability to have self-control will need more intention, will need more attention. Remember, environment wins over will. Let's look at the elements that led to self-control, which the children showed in the second marshmallow experiment. It helps us to understand how we can develop habits within self-control. The children received small incremental rewards, crayons, stickers, and as a result of being rewarded, they were willing to act with self-control. Now, I grant you that most of us aren't 4 or 5 years old anymore, but some of the same themes hold true for us as adults too. Namely, that we want to start with small steps. And as a result of having small wins, we will train ourselves, we will train our brains to act with self-control. We want our unconscious go-to habit to believe that choosing the long-term reward rather than short-term pleasure is positive, that choosing the long-term reward is worth it. The more we practice this form of self-control, the less energy it will take, the more habitual it will become. And as time goes on, the habits that were once familiar will become unfamiliar. And the habits which were unfamiliar will become familiar. And most importantly, perhaps, we will know that we can control our physical actions, our emotional responses, our opportunities to focus our brains, and our ability to manage our impulses. We will feel and we will be empowered to live the lives we want. Entire books have been written on the subject of self-control. There is no way I could possibly delve deeply enough into the subject to satisfy the depth of work that is out there for us to explore. So today, I want to just share a few ideas with you which can help to develop self-control. Some of them are the equivalent of small rewards which can help us to train our brain to trust that delay of gratification. Others are ways to create new habits. They are strategies that can apply to in some cases, all of the areas of physical, emotional focus or impulse control, and in some cases, specifically just to one. So the first thing that we want to know is to plan ahead. Expect that it will be a challenge to break an old habit. 3 times Jesus was tempted. Once when he was hungry and was enticed to turn stones into bread. Once when he was on the pinnacle of the temple and he was tempted to do something foolish and throw himself off the temple pinnacle and have the angels catch him. And once when he was on the top of a mountain and he was tempted with the promise of power over all that he could see. In response to the first suggestion, Jesus replies, "It is written, man does not live by bread alone, but on every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." This is a reference to a passage in Deuteronomy chapter 8. At the second suggestion, Jesus says, "Again, it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test." Again, quoting Deuteronomy, this time chapter 6. And finally, he says, "Get away from me, Satan." Often you may have heard this, "Get thee away from me," "Get thee behind me, Satan." It is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and only him shall you serve. Again, referencing Deuteronomy chapter 6 and in chapter 10 of Deuteronomy. Jesus was ready with the response when he was tempted. And in all 3 cases, he referred to scripture. He referred to something that he had clearly meditated on and prayed on. For us, what we can take from this example is that we can plan ahead. So when we are tempted, we know what our response will be. It may be helpful to role play or to write down what we intend so that we also have meditated on it and prayed on it and are prepared for it. And number 2, idea number 2, think 3. Take 3 minutes or do 3 things. This is useful for physical self-control. For example, when you want to go for a walk or clean out a closet or a desk or a garage or a tool shed or anything like that. Just take 3 minutes or do 3 things. This is especially useful if you have a big job, something that seems so overwhelming, you don't want to do it at all. The little win will feel good, and it won't feel too demanding. There'll be a feeling of reward, and the sense of accomplishment will train your brain into seeing the task as pleasurable. And over time, even if it's 3 minutes at a time or 3 things at a time, the task will be accomplished. 3 minutes walking around the block, down to the edge of the corner and back, is better than no minutes at all. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Take 3 minutes and do what you can. That take 3 idea is also useful for managing emotional responses. 3 minutes of slow breathing can help to calm us down so that we can respond rather than react. Take 3, think 3, do 3. The next idea, create a routine. A friend of mine had a kitchen which was spotless. and he had no dishwasher. And when I asked how he managed to keep his kitchen so clean, he said that his routine after supper was to put the kettle on and make a cup of tea. And while the kettle was boiling, he would wash the dishes and put them away. So simple, so effective. And he didn't have to think about it. It was just what he did. Think of something that you don't enjoy doing. Maybe putting your laundry away or opening the mail. And then, for me, opening the mail is really no fun. I don't know why. And then pair it to some extent with something which is already part of your routine. That way it will eventually become part of your routine as well, or part of the routine as well. Another idea, identify the point at which you get tripped up and then avoid that point. For example, I have found that if I start working on my computer, that I have a tendency to continue to work. I'll be less likely to go for a walk. And if I want to get outside and enjoy the day, it's not going to happen, or it's unlikely to happen. So I needed a different strategy. I can make an appointment that forces me out of the house. I have a sister with whom I walk, and so I have an accountability partner, someone who walks with me. Or I can start my day outside with a walk before I even sit down. And I now work with my laptop on battery power, which forces me to get up and move when I need to plug the computer back in. This strategy of find out what trips you up and then avoid it is particularly useful for impulse control. If you find that every time you go down a certain road and pass a bar or a restaurant or a casino that you can't resist stopping into, and if you want to resist stopping into it, then remove the temptation by taking a different road. Remove the choice point. Another idea, identify the thing that sets you on the path that you want, and then do it. This is related to the other. So the one is find what trips you up, stop doing that. And this one is find what gets you onto the path, and then do that. I often find that unless I have an appointment and a schedule, it is hard for me to actually knuckle down and do the work. So I make appointments with myself, and sometimes I even keep them. Another idea, and this one is particularly useful for emotional self-control, is pretend that you are being recorded. Play a role if necessary. It takes enormous effort not to revert to our ingrained habits of fight or flight or freeze when we are challenged emotionally. Some people might even say that it is not possible to have self-control when we're feeling angry. Well, I respectfully beg to differ with that. Even people who are physically or emotionally or verbally abusive have a measure of self-control. They have a choice. And the way I know that is because if they did not have a choice, they would be as ugly and mean and violent in public as they are in private. But most people who are physically or verbally abusive can be quite sweet in public and quite ugly in private. That means that they are choosing their behavior. If you want to improve your self-control and use your anger in a positive way to help make changes in your life and changes in the world, then a powerful way to do so and to challenge that anger and break those habits is to pretend that you are being recorded. And if necessary, play a role until it becomes more natural. In some ways, it's unfortunate that self-control isn't spoken about more often in churches and spiritual circles. It is a human challenge. Self-control is a human challenge, and it has the potential to bring contentment and accomplishment when applied well. And it has the potential to bring harm and disappointment when applied ineffectively. As you move through your day, your week, your life, my encouragement is that you develop your self-control so it becomes a force for your peace and contentment and well-being. Self-control can be learned. Unlearn the old habits so that the familiar becomes unfamiliar. Learn new habits so that those which are unfamiliar become familiar. And begin with small steps that make you feel good. Prepare yourself for temptation. Think 3 minutes or 3 things. Create a routine. Identify the tripping point and avoid it. Identify the starting point and do it. Pretend you're being recorded. Play a different role. Develop your self-control. The effort is worth it. I bless you.
As we come around to take our places at the table, a moment to remember and reflect upon our wealth. Here's to loving friends and family, here's to being able to gather here together in good company and health. And may we be released from all those feelings that would harm us. May we have the will to give them up and get them gone. For heavy are the satchels full of anger and false promise. May we have the strength to put them down. May the light of love be shining deep within your spirit. May the torch of mercy clear the path and show the way. May the horn of plenty sound so everyone can hear it. May the light of love be with you every day. And may we wish the best for everyone that we encounter. May we swallow pride and may we do away with
fear. For it's only what we do not know that we have grown afraid of, and only what we do not choose to hear. May the light of love be shining deep within your spirit. May the torch of mercy clear the path and show the way. May the horn of plenty sound so everyone can hear it. May the light of love be with you every day. And as we bless our daily bread and drink our day's libation, may we be reminded of the lost and wayward soul, the hungry and the homeless that we have in every nation. May we fill each empty cup and bowl. May nothing ever come between or threaten to divide us. May we never take for granted all the gifts that we receive, being ever mindful of the unseen hands that guide us and the miracles that cause us to believe. May the light of love be shining deep within your spirit. May the torch of mercy clear the path and show the way. May the horn of plenty sound so everyone can hear it. May the light of love be with you every day. May the horn of plenty sound so everyone can hear it. May the light of love be with you. May the light of love be with you. May the light of love be with you every day.
You are invited to join us on Mondays at 11 o'clock for our weekly prayer service. It is a time where we get together on Zoom and we connect with each other. We share how we are doing with each other. We move into a time of guided prayer. And we read the names of the people who are on our prayer list. And it is a time of renewal, of connection. It is a profound experience of recentering. And so I invite you to join us for that. And if you would like your name, or you know someone who you would like to have added to that prayer list, then please email us at unityofnewwestminster@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to have the person's name or your name added to our list. Mondays at 11. Please mark your calendars for Sunday, March the 27th, right after the Sunday celebration service at about 12:15, because on that day we will hold our annual membership meeting. At the moment, we are planning to hold it as a hybrid gathering on both Zoom and sharing in the fellowship hall or the sanctuary. What we'll do is share the screen so that everyone, whether they are in person or on Zoom, will be able to join. If you are already a member of Unity of New Westminster, then your membership for 2022 will automatically be renewed unless you request otherwise. And if you are new and wish to become a member, please fill in the membership form which is on our website. So, Sunday, March 27th, our annual membership meeting, right after the service. Our dear friend Lyle Dellingham is making a denim quilt, which will look similar to the beautiful creations that he has already made and which are shown on your screen. When the quilt is finished, it will be auctioned off as a fundraiser for our Medicine Wheel Labyrinth project. We are looking for donations of denim So if you have any used jeans in any color, in any size, please drop them off at the church on Sundays or on Wednesdays and Fridays between 11 and 1. Thank you, Lyle, for your generosity. I can't wait to see the finished project. These that you have already completed are absolutely beautiful.
We are grateful for the financial support which we receive from those who enjoy our programs. With the pandemic, some of our expenses have been lessened and some of our expenses don't go away. So thank you for your generosity, which supports our ministry. We give a portion of our income to organizations that do amazing work in our community, both locally and in our province. So your gifts make a difference in lives. We welcome donations by credit card, check, cash, or our preferred method, Interac e-transfer, to Unity of New Westminster at gmail.com. Interac is free of service charges. Thank you. Now, please bring to your hands, to your hearts, or to your minds something that you are grateful for, as we give thanks and remember how much we have to be grateful for. We are so blessed.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And we come to the end of another service. I thank you for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed your experience with us today. I wish you all a very, very blessed week. Goodbye, everybody.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin I am the light of God. I am the love of God. I am the power of God. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is. I am the light of God. I am the love of God. I am the power of God. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is. You are the light of God. You are the love of God. You are the power of God. You are the presence of God. Wherever you are, God is. You are the light of God. You are the love of God. You are the power of God. You are the presence of God. Wherever you are, God is. We are the light of God. We are the love of God. We are the power of God. We are the presence of God.